Oh snap. Oh snap. Oh snap. Look who's back. Look who's back. I am back. What's up, y'all? This is the Jerkmonger coming at you live from my studio here in Tampa, Florida. That's right, kids. It's me again. You guys didn't expect it, but I am here now. And I think you guys are very special to me. I see two of you watching. The two of you are the most important people in my life right now. All right. So what am I doing here? We are kind of going into Elric. How are you? Thanks for coming, man. I appreciate it. I really appreciate it. I'm gonna have to step back a couple of times because I'm having issues with my coffee today. Don't like it. Hold on a second here. All right. So I'm just kind of going over a little bit of where I've been. Some of you who may be coming in, filing in, or people who may be coming in later may be wondering, well, Elliot, why are you still working on this right here? Why are we still dealing with this nonsense? Why aren't you moving forward? Well, I am moving forward. I just got a lot of other things I'm working on at the same time. But what I also am trying to do is make sure that I'm being true to my goals for this project, and that is to come up with a style that's going to be helpful for me to execute, but also something that's still interesting to look at too. So I'm just playing around with this idea. I really like where I'm at right now with some of this. I really can't lie about that. I'm pretty excited about this, but I still want to make sure that this is executable. This is something I can actually accomplish, you know. So I think this is a pretty decent style. I'm liking it. And you know, one of the things that attracted me to Comicsgate Sketch, what's going on, man? Is this Bruce Campbell? I don't think it's Bruce Campbell. No, not really. Everybody thinks he's somebody. I guess this comes from everybody's perspectives, right? Everybody has oh, this guy looks like this guy looks like that. It's good I have. Okay, Elric, I don't understand what that means, but it's good I have. 3D Robin, thank you, man. I appreciate that, dude. Thank you very much. Yeah, I mean, you know, it's it's that fine balance. We started talking about it a little bit yesterday. Oh, I love them in Burn Notice sketch. I love them in Burn Notice. I talked about this a little bit yesterday about the importance of understanding. I think this is an important thing that any artist can really think about, is understanding your limitations, understanding what it is that you can do, what you can't do. So one of the, you know, and this is not I wish that everybody, you know, some artists might look at what I do and think, oh, you know, if you were a better artist, you could do a lot more stuff, and you'd be able to draw anything. And that's probably true, I guess. But let's just be realistic for a second here, guys. If you wait to be perfect, okay? If you wait to be perfect, you'll never do anything. If you wait for the right time to do something, it's like when people say, when's the right time to have a family? You know, there really isn't a right time to have the family. The most important thing is to be the right you to handle having a family. When's the right time to move to another city? Well, just move. If you want to move. Go there, be there. And, you know, do what you got to do. It's important that you are being true to yourself. Honest with yourself is really the thing. True to yourself sounds like some weird, like, you know, pie in the sky thing. Hey, Kuzmeti, how are you? Sketch says, I can't do sequential art. Well, you know, you probably could actually, Sketch. You probably, if you worked on it and you spent a little time on it, you know, that type of thing. But the reality is, you have to just know that there's a that you might have a limitation. You might have a maybe you're not good at drawing. I don't know. I'm going to use fire hydrants as my example. I tend to use that quite a bit. And hey, Cam, how are you? Daniel, Liebert, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Brian says good morning. Everybody's happy I can watch live. Right on, right on. Elric says I like the consistency of the character from the different angles. Well, thanks, Elric. I appreciate that too, man. So just understanding your limitations helps, because if you know that you're going to struggle doing something else, you may want to switch. This is kind of like strategizing on the fly. If you're in the middle of a game, right? I'm going to use a football analogy, okay? And I'm not really a sports person, so take this with a grain of salt. If you don't like my sports analogies, I totally get it. But when you're on the field, if you're the quarterback and you're seeing the defense line up in front of your offensive line, you're going to look at that line and you're going to say to yourself, what are they doing? And you're going to ask the questions. You're going to ask, hopefully you're asking the right questions about what you're watching. Oh, snap. People calling me. I don't know why people call me. You're going to ask, hopefully you're asking the right questions about what's going on in front of you. So if you see that your offense is lined up against a defense that's prepared for you, you might want to call an audible. That's a famous term in football. Call an audible. And so what that means is you may not be able to do things exactly the way you had planned initially. You may not be able to do things to the expectations of the crowd. So you might have to go and adjust for what you see in front of you. And so and the reason why is because the game continues. Whether you feel excited about this play or not, whether you are excited about this position on the field or not, you got to keep moving forward. So one of the things that I'm suggesting here is when you're looking at your work and you're looking at your product in front of you, for me, this is the product in front of me. This right here, all this stuff. This is me drawing, me doing my thing. If you find yourself in a position where you're like, hey, man, I'm going to have to draw things like trucks. I got to draw a car. I have to draw a very specific car. How am I going to draw that? And so if those are the things you're concerned about, you may want to just adjust your style accordingly. So there's a spectrum. I'm going to do a little picture here for you guys. Bear with me. So let's just say, I'm going to go with my little brush here. This is the spectrum, okay? You're going to have, we're going to call this tune. Oops. Tune. And I'm going to call this one over here real, okay? All right, so by this I mean, this is what I mean. So real, I mean realistic. I mean hyper-realistic. I mean photographic. That's real. Could even be live action, okay? Tune is simplified. So and Scott McCloud covers some of this type of stuff in his book, Understanding Comics and then Making Comics or whatever. But this might be, this kind of thing where you go all out and you do all the cool detail and everything's hyper realized, and there's face and there's nose here and there's eyes and there's hair here, and you draw every single strand and everything's happening over here, and this is in front of a specific car and it has all the bells and whistles, and then so this is more about this is more about your detail and technique than it is about telling a story. I mean, you can tell a story, and this would be a fantastic way to tell a story, but it's almost like creating a project and doing it laden in gold, right? That's one way to do it. And people would be, wow, this is really nice. This is a really nice coffee cup. It's got gold all over it. That's really great. That's one way to look at it. The problem with that is that's just, that's a specific interpretation of the events in your story or whatever your illustration may be, and you're basically saying, hey man, this is going to be super realistic. Okay, this car is not realistic. I hope you guys know this is not realistic. All right. But on the other side, this is one side. This is the spectrum. On the other side, this might look like this. Bank, 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 bank. Boop, 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 boop. Okay, you see what I'm saying? See the difference there? So, chop off feet when possible. So what I'm trying to say here, and I'm gonna have to refresh my screen real quick, guys. What I'm trying to say here, guys, is when you're dealing with this as your spectrum, you got to decide right away. You have to decide where is it that you're gonna fall in this whole thing. What is reasonable? What is realistic? One was really quick to do. Smart. Right. So this one might be too simplistic, and this one might be too realistic. So this one's gonna take more time, more effort, more erasing. Erasing is the wrong term. Let's get rid of erasing. It should be more editing, okay? Because you have more to edit. Now you're not just doing a figure, with just oh, here we're gonna update this guy here. Look, that guy's real. That guy's awesome now. This guy over here, this guy over here requires, if I don't draw that hair right, once you start committing to this style here, you're committing to a level of detail and intensity of detail that's going to be demanded on everything else you're going to draw. All right. See, my drawing skill is somewhere to the left of that range. That's funny, Cam. Oh, Cosmetti, you guys are hilarious. Same, just an amateur, and I use reference images all the time. Right on. All right, so you also need more well, you're gonna need reference regardless. I mean, don't get me wrong. This is not to say that this side is okay. Well, we'll get there. But like, on this side of the spectrum, we're still talking about all these different challenges here. Now, there's also construction. So construction is going to be one of those things that, oops, make sure I have enough room here. I do. On this side, a specific thing is construction as well. And that's the problem. Sometimes people disrespect cartoony art or toonier art because they think, oh, it's simple, therefore it's easier. It's not easier, it's just more efficient. Because if you look at the storyboards or you look at the frames of any animation, one of my favorite, to this day I still enjoy, even though I don't think the quality is not as intensively there as, say, some specific anime from Japan. But the Warner Brothers animations are done really, really well. The guys, I know several guys that work in that field. They're doing great work over there in LA somewhere, and that work is dynamic, although more simplified. So what falls? So here you have more. This is going to take more time. This might take less time for rendering. Less rendering, but I wouldn't say it was less effort. Gee whiz, my phone, people calling me. Why? I wouldn't say it was less effort because, frankly, it takes as much effort. You still have to do all the thinking behind how you're going to put that together. But the reality is, this is going to take less time in the execution of it, the final execution. So if you're going to ink something less toonier, it's going to be a little bit easier. So what are some examples? This one you might say, like, let's pick, this side might be Olivier Coipel, okay? I think I'm spelling his name right. Olivier Coipel. He's one of my favorite pseudo-realistic artists. Adam Hughes. Adam's deceptive, though. He sometimes does, I don't know how to spell his last name. It's Ghes, right? Right, but on this side, it might be Bruce Timm. Right? Darwin Cook. And they're not really at the far end. The far end might be, stick people. So what I'm trying to say is that Uncanny Kodiak, how you doing, man? Watching you, and now Doug has changed my attack on books for the better. Drawing a thumbnail several times and working at rearranging panels via cutouts or index cards has become a life-saving must. Well, there you go. Right on, man. Right on. Thank you for the super chat too, Bear. I appreciate you, brother. So basically, this idea here, this is efficiency. This is about efficiency, and this is efficient art, and this is going to be a little bit more. What's a good term for this? We're going to call this side. If it's not efficient, it's going to be more about. It's more about showcase. Okay. This is a showcase style. In this place, you're showcasing your rendering, you're showcasing your style, you're making everything real snazzy, and that's all good. But it's also putting you in a position. Where do aliens fit in this? What's up, Brian? But it's also putting you in a position where you're gonna have a hard time. Um, you're gonna have a hard time keeping this level of art up. And maybe for you, maybe you're the kind of artist like a Mike Miller, or I'm trying to think of other fast artists. I don't know a lot. I don't know a lot. A lot of artists that work on this side of the spectrum, they tend to put a lot of energy into this side, and they most of them are taking more time. And I remember when people would complain about Joe Madureira and some of the other artists that I enjoy. Yeah, they took a long time, because they were kind of working on a level that was so high with so much detail, and it started to really be cause trouble with their final processing of the work, because if you did all this inking with a pencil, right, and then hand it off to an inker, the inker now is trying to just trace everything you drew. Cam says, well, he's just one example, and that's it's understandable though. It's a very high end level of art. Sketch. John Malin. Not fast, Cam. Not fast. So anyway, that's what you're exchanging, and this is not an either or proposition necessarily. This is just understanding what it is that you're exchanging. If you're going to be doing higher end work, that's going to take more time. If you're going to do lower end work, like I said, stick people, obviously I can draw. Now it still takes skill to tell a story, but it's in the way that you process the art. That is where you get some time savings. However, what is the exchange on the side? While you are more efficient, there is also, I feel like there's a lot more subjectivity involved. A lot of times, especially here in the West, you'll hear people say, "Morning, Kung, how are you?" Morning classes in session. Oh, yeah. A lot of times at this level, people will say things like, "Oh, it's too cartoony," or it looks kind of silly, or whatever. And that is the danger. That is something you have to acknowledge and understand, that's what you're dealing with, right? Good, cheap. Yeah. But there's a triangle for that, right? This is the triangle. So there's going to be this quality. There's speed. I think this is the way it goes. Help me out. And then there's quality and quantity. Okay. This is how it works. Is this right? What am I missing here? This isn't quite right. Let's see. You see, it's speed, quantity. What is it? Speed, quantity, and quality, right? I think that's how it goes. Anyway, if you want speed and quantity, you won't have quality, right? Is that how that goes? But if you want quality and quantity, you can't get speed. See what I'm saying? So so if you want speed and quality, you cannot have quantity. Does that make sense? So I like hyper detail. I like Skyver, Silvestri, Wolf, Mike Malin are some of my favorites. Oh, scared! Stop kissing up to Malin just because he's here. How dare you? How dare you? Anyway, so this is kind of the thing that you have to think about when you're working, and this is, and I'm not saying either one is wrong, but this has always been the challenge of production. This is always going to be the challenge. Just do your thing, Ellie. As long as it doesn't look like you've rushed it and it's consistent, it's all good. Well, thanks, 3D Robin. I appreciate the encouragement there. Trust me, I am. Well, hold on a second. That depends. What I am is what I need to be. What's up, Edwin? How are you, man? What I am is what I need to be, and that's the thing. I come from this world right here where we discuss things in these terms, because you can't do you and take 12 and overshoot your deadline just because you're doing you. I don't want to do that. You people can, if people are willing to accept that, right? But I don't have some of the things that some people have. So what I need to do is I need to be able to say, am I clicking? Shut up, John. See, now you got me sucking my teeth every time I talk. Now I'm all self-conscious now. Thanks a lot, John. Thanks a lot. He says I click when I talk. So see, now I'm being silly. Anyway, you just got to understand what you're doing, and you got to pay attention to that kind of thing. So anyway, long story short, this is basically kind of something to consider when you're putting work together. You just understand what's your limitation, what to expect. I'm going to keep this on a separate thing, and maybe I'll share this later on a post or something like that. But the idea is to give yourself the right understanding of what you're trying to accomplish. Make sure that you're not putting yourself in a hole. You know, like I said, some people put a lot of energy into drawing hyper realistic drawings of characters, but they can't draw. They don't draw cars at the same level. Or they can draw all those things at the same level, but they can't get a book out on time. And so this is a challenge I think a lot of people face. I'm just talking out loud. I'm just sharing with you guys, with anyone who's interested in this sort of thing, so you guys understand your own process and your own limitations and why it is that I'm working on this at the level that I'm working at. That's right, Daniel. I'm just trying to tell a good story. Rest comes after. That's fair, and that goes back to some of our discussion we were talking last night with Kyung, myself, John was there for a while, and Mike Miller, just about how some artists develop styles and patterns so that it could help them execute. So I'm hoping that this will encourage some of you, that you are able to just know where you fit in that whole thing, and then start developing according to that. All right. So obviously you guys don't care about this information, so I'm going to go ahead and move on to something else here. I'm going to go ahead and what I've been doing is I'm just underneath here in my blue lines, you can see a tunier, if you will. I've labeled it tunish. This is some of that look there, and now I'm trying to go over it with this other style that I'm kind of borrowing from a bunch of inspirations that I think will work, but well, we'll see. So let me go ahead and pick. I like this face a lot. This is a good different face to work from. So I'm gonna go ahead and I already have it lightened up on this layer here. I have a blue. I put a cyan layer right here. Filled it. If I was to fill this, make this normal, it's just a big blue layer. So then I turn that layer. I put it onto screen, and it lets anything that's black show up as the color that I have on that layer on top underneath it. So this layer here is my pencil drawings, or my digital pencil drawings, and then bink, there's that. Now, as far as this tuning style, I will tell you it's not as easy for me, because it's a different level of thinking to draw this way. You're not quite. It's not. There's nothing simple about it if you don't know what. Trust me. I've been studying it for a long time, practicing it for a long time, and it's still challenging especially when you're working with something that's just a little different than what you're used to. You'd have a tendency to kind of like fall apart in it. So this style, while a little more complicated, is a style I'm more comfortable with. But it's a good blend between the two. It's got a little bit of simple lines, not overly rendered, and it's a lot more graphic, which is what I like. But this really helps me get myself together here. All right. I like this face a lot. This is one of my favorite faces I did. Let's go ahead and sketch over this. What I think might work. So this character, Hank, he is a larger fellow. A lot of you guys have compared him to Bob Parr, Mr. Incredible. I see why, but I wouldn't say that. When you see how he looks physically, his overall body physique is nothing like Bob Parr. He's just an overweight guy. Not very different than myself. Just a chubby dude. He's got issues. He can't control his donut habits. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to give him to help illustrate. I'm going to lower the opacity on this a little bit. So it's a little, I want to see those dark lines. I don't want to see the blue lines too much. One of the things I'm trying to do here is like he doesn't sleep very well because he's not healthy, and he's got some bags under his eyes. He's an everyman character, right? So that's kind of the idea here. So I'm drawing this face that is different from this one. This one here he's laughing. It's a very similar face, but this one here is kind of yelling. So I'm trying to figure out what that's going to look like. Also, I like shifting his mouth to the side. It helps to sell the idea. But again, since I'm going a little less cartoony, I have to think a little more about just how can I make sure that this reads anatomically correct. You know, doesn't mean he has to be perfect. It just now that I'm using a more realistic style, I have to make sure there's a special hinge on what he's got. Bear, thank you for the $5 super chat. Trying to learn perspective, background, lots of motorcycles while creating a book is a pain, but it has made my anatomy drawing better. Strange. No, that's not strange at all, actually. Because you're doing that, you're able to see the human form differently. If you're working more on that kind of stuff, thinking about mechanical parts, the body really is just a bunch of mechanical parts. If you take it seriously as something constructed and designed, that's what it certainly is, right? So, and by the way, by doing something like this is like a character sheet or a style guide. By doing something like this, what I'm also doing by default is creating for myself a style guide, a reference sheet. You know, one of the things I love about animation is when, especially like at Disney or other big studios, they'll often create something called a maquette. I think that's how you say it, but I always spell it like maquette, but people keep calling it marquette. I don't know why. But what it is, it's a way to see your figure in 3 dimensions. And hold on here, figure this out. And so what you do is you can take that, turn it around, and look at it from different angles. But if you don't have that, hey Tommy, how are you? If you don't have that, then what you got to do is manufacture your own version of that by drawing your character from different angles. I like to include expressions because if I get into a scene where my character is laughing, I want to keep in mind, I want him to be consistent, he or she to be consistent from panel to panel. So I'll often do this. Unless you're going to do a style that's very just everybody's angry and they're just gritting teeth, then that's something different. You know, you don't need that necessarily if that's the look you're going for. But I like my characters to do a little more acting than that. So I like to give my characters something that's, you know, give them a little bit more range in their personality through their expressions. What does a character look like when he's sad? What is a character? Sometimes people just make things very stoic. A character can look very stoic, a little more stiff. I like them being a little more flexible, especially in the face. So this helps me stay on track, stay on board with whatever I'm going to draw next. One of the things, one of the real life influences for this character, if you think about it, I don't know if I should share this with you guys. Maybe I shouldn't, but I'm looking at, well, I guess it's not a problem. I was looking a lot at, when we talked about the kind of character he is I was thinking a lot about Sly Stallone in a movie called Copland, where he has kind of like this pushed to the side, you know, streaky, greasy hair deal, sideburns. See, but the problem with this mouth is doesn't look. It looks like he's just kind of like he's doing like the Kevin Hart mouth. Whiny. I gotta open it up further to get that nice. And this is where having it somewhat cartoony gives me a little bit of room. I can take this same thing, stretch him out a little more, and all of a sudden you can really play with that expression further. So just something to think about when you're drawing your dudes. Think about that. That helps a lot. Having a little bit of cartoonishness to it goes a long way. Let's see here. Malin says me. This looks like you, Malin. No, it doesn't look like you. I don't know what you look like. So, but when I draw Jason, it looks like you. But that's about it. Jason Voorhees. All right. So what I'm hoping for here, as you can see, that from most angles, it's not going to be perfect, guys, right? Because I didn't do a sculpture of this guy. I don't have a real world person to follow. Yeah, Sly gained a lot of donut weight for that film. Yeah. That's funny. No fail. A man humble, says John Malin. That's funny. Elliot, no fair live stream while I'm in the middle of your UFO conversation from last night. That's fun. Anyway, so I feel like I'm getting a good read that I'm following the pattern here. He looks pretty much close to the same guy. He's not that different from how we'll draw male figures anyway. I've been inking these to make sure that I'm getting a good read as far as how I'm gonna ink them. Now, one of my plans as far as inking this story, because it does have it's supposed to have a bit of film noir to it, so I don't want to mess it up here, but I'm going to make sure as I go along, I'm going to do a lot of spotting blacks, probably on a sheet of tracing paper. I'll put a piece of tracing paper. Let's see. Tommy says, I really like the hair profile. Easy to recognize even if you go full noir darkness. Yeah. That's what I'm hoping. So by film noir, I mean maybe... So let's try this. This is not going to be great, but oh well. So let's say this version of him might have... Let's say the light's coming from this direction. So maybe... I'm going to dark black this stuff out here. And I might do some of this early on. I might appeal to some of my pro friends and get their read on this. I seldom do this at this stage. Almost every time I do anything like this, I'm doing it on the fly, and I don't really pay attention to what I'm doing. So, which causes me a lot more trouble because I'm going to do all this drawing, then I'm going to black it all out. That's what I'm trying to avoid, right? Like Frank Miller in Sin City. Yeah, that's exactly right. James Hayes says, for a film noir style, are you going to have to do more inking than for a normal book? Sorta. Everyone is better looking than Buscemi. Well, not Rocky Dennis. So, I'll be definitely using more ink. So hopefully I'm not going to be inking. I'm not going to be drawing as much with the brush like I normally do. But this might be how he's lit. If that might be too much. There's like a black eye, but something like that. Does that make sense? Yeah. That's right, Tommy. That's the goal, is to give this a little bit of a mysterious vibe. If I was to do another character, maybe he'd be ha 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 ha. Maybe he's lit underneath. This is not perfect, but stuff like that. Maybe here he's I'm just working real quick to see if I can figure this out for myself here. Oops. No, stop it. This is not perfect. Like I said, I'd have to work this out a little more, but this is the kind of thing I'll be thinking about as I'm moving along, trying to decide if this is what I want to do. No, not Mr. Incredible, not Mr. Incredible. But that's okay. I understand why you'd say that. No problem. All right, so back up to my other drawing here. I've been using a brush for this inking by a creator named Kyle Webster. Kyle Webster, I think is his name. And I'm using his smoother brush, but I'm reducing it to 10 pixels. And this document, by the way, I'm working at is this is a 10 by 15 live area that I'm dealing with, but I'm also doing it at 300 dpi. That's a fair file size to use. I wouldn't go anything higher than 300 if you're doing comic work. Is this book going to be digital? Tyler, it's not supposed to be. But again, it depends on how I feel. It's easier to edit digitally. I mean, that's the reality. John Malin is right about that, and that saves me a lot of time. So we'll see how that goes. Gave up on cross hatching. I just do lines in the need direction. Fair enough. Tommy says, do you know about where the light should come for different emotions, like making person look menacing versus been questioned? It still depends on what light source you establish. I really can't change it too much. That otherwise it'll get real weird, but sometimes I'll do I want to go for like that real neat thing where you have the light go across the eyes. That's always pretty fun. Maybe take a look at Mike Mignola's work for some of the shadows. That's a great point, Matt. I'll be looking at Mike Mignola's work, and also what's his name? Sin City guy. Forgot his name again. Frank Miller. I'm throwing out some jokes, but I really love these drawings. Reminds me a bit of my dad, who I miss so much. Right on, man. I appreciate that. How did you get your name in the corner so I can steal it? You want to steal my name? I can teach you, John. I can teach you a lot of things, but you might have to shed your boomer skin, and from there you can include that in your thing. I can show you later if you like. All right, so I'm going to. Yeah, that's how I include. And by the way, I'm also not able to do this is not a hangout, so that's the thing I'm exchanging. I'm still trying to figure that out. Let's see. Kyung is laughing at me. You guys, appreciate you guys. Sorry to hear about missing your fathers. All right, so here we go. I'm going to go ahead and do some quick inking. So another thing to think about when you're working digitally, I don't know if you guys do think about this, but one of the things I always have to play with a lot is, it's not, hold on a second here, is system preferences. I'm working in Photoshop, so I'm going to show you my preferences for my Wacom tablet. This might help some of you who are interested in working digitally, but sometimes you can't. You may want to adjust depending on the brush you have. If you're using a pre-made brush by someone else, you may want to adjust your sensitivity. This is a really important thing to consider. If you look here, I'm putting very minimal pressure. You can see the blue line come up. But that's because it's set to medium. If I make it all the way firm, then I tap, the same level of pressure gives me very little effect, right? If I go too far to the right, a little pressure goes all the way to maximum. Okay, same pressure I'm placing. I'm just tapping the screen, frankly. So I usually keep mine here, or I'll go a little higher. I might take it to the next notch higher, and that gives me a little more control. But I find that the Kyle Webster brushes seem to work best that's right at the middle. So, but that's something you want to consider if you want to make the most use out of your stylus and your tablet. Be sure to observe that. That's one of the reasons why. That's one of the things I was able to develop a style in my digital inking came from the adjustments I made in the tablet system preferences. All right. So that was just to kind of give you guys a view of that, because I know sometimes people ask me, how do you get the lines to work that way? Well, it's a combination of the pressure I apply to the tablet, but sometimes it helps to have that little, extra something something with your something something. You know what I'm saying? All right. Your little didgeridoo, doo, diggity boo, lock cock, ready to rock hua stuff. So I'm just moving quickly. I'm also not planning to go. I'm not going to be using the brush strokes that I normally would use. I'm thinking that I'm going to be inking this with my pens. Like if I do anything traditional, it might include some brush work for the larger areas, but for the most part, I'm planning to try a style that is more of a like using my Kuretake pens. You have more options available in shape dynamics too. That's true. I don't mess with those too much, Kyung, because that's where the brushes, like I said, the brushes I'm using are built in a certain way, and I like the way they work primarily. But for me, the pressure sensitivity is the thing that I feel like helps at least the first pass. You could always go back later and adjust into that as well. So notice how I'm giving a little bit of a heavier line. This is a simple inking thing that I learned from old inkers, inkers who have taught me over the years how to ink, how to use. Sometimes people use a dead weight line on all their stuff. I don't like using that, but I've seen people use it to great effect, so and with great success. So it's up to you, frankly, as the artist, to decide how you want to use your stuff. But see, I like this style because it's a good blend of the realistic stuff that people seem to think they like, but then this is the other side of it. It's just like fun. Let's see here. Okay, I guess you guys are having your own conversation over there. You can, if you need me to respond to something, you're welcome to super chat me so I can notice it, because right now you guys are, I don't know what you're talking about. Let's see. Anyway, so here, yeah, I had a friend who used to try to do I had a friend who used to, he wanted to do comic work, but he was also inspired by animation like I am. At least animation techniques and forms. But he would always do this really dead line. He was so influenced by animation that he would try to follow the same technique using animation for his comic work. And I used to tell him, the problem with that approach, this is my opinion, of course. You guys don't have to share it, but I will express it regardless. The problem with that is when you're dealing with animation, your figures are moving, or whatever, your objects are moving throughout everything. So it's a how do you say it? It's you don't acknowledge, you're not distracted by the dead weight of those lines. When you see those same dead weights in comic books, I think what you get out of that is it doesn't look as dynamic. It looks a little flatter than if you had just put a little more energy into the energy of your lines. No pun intended, actually, but obviously I intended to throw that in there. So anyway, I'm a liar. So if what I do is I like to add, there's another way of going about it, like some of the old inkers like Tom Palmer and some of these cats, they would throw on these really thick, heavy lines. And what you want to do is wherever your art is facing the light, that edge of your art obviously gets a thinner line like this right here. But this piece, if this was not going to be filled in black, this is how I would handle it. This piece would get a little heavier line. This would be thinner. And as maybe this kind of is a little bit of a shelf there, comes a little lower. I still do this little technique. Another way to do this is just to kind of draw a little easy shape around everything, and you'd be good to go too. But that just helps me kind of see through. Anyway, are you guys talking about the comics again yesterday? Yeah. That's crazy stuff. But what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? That's why we're doing what we're doing. That's why people are doing Comics Gate stuff. That's why you guys listen. I'm all about, and I'm encouraging you guys. I want to share this information I used to keep this information more quiet. I used to think I could just, I would put it on my Patreon and I wouldn't share it with people. But I feel like more and more as we move along, this is one of those things that, Brian and I were talking about this recently about what can we bring to the table. And it's stuff like this that if you guys want to learn stuff, I'm going to be sharing this kind of stuff on here. I'm going to be doing different things for you guys if I can. From time to time, if you watch this stuff, even though I'm working on my project, I will be explaining it. Kind of like what Doug's been doing with how to write. I want to explain to you what my thought process is for drawing, and share that, at least the wisdom of where I'm coming from. So if you guys want to follow that, awesome. If you don't want to follow it, still awesome, because you don't have to do it the way I'm suggesting. I'm just giving you guys some principles that some people have that have helped speed up the process. So if you are wanting to get better at something, paying attention to how I might do something might help you, might spark a thought in your mind about how you might do your version of it, and that's perfectly fine. So some of you might say, well, I like that idea, Elliot, but it looks like it takes too long. You might be right. And because I have my own limitations as well, right? So this way, like right there, I just covered up with white. But this way you kind of get at least some kind of understanding, a little bit of education. You don't have to go to a special school to do this if you are studious enough and you're paying attention enough to what everyone's trying to tell you here. When you guys watch Drawn and Quartered over on Blacklist Universe here on YouTube, that's super helpful to you guys if you're interested in drawing anything, because it helps kind of give you guys a foundation on which to build. From there, you can add to that idea, and but just whatever you do, don't pay attention to what Malin does, because everything Malin does is wrong. I'm kidding, of course. Malin, I love you. So now I'm just gonna, and this is why I love digital. I get to do this so quickly. Not so fast. Hold on here. Let me just, now what I'll do here is I will often go to, I'll select, modify. I always do this. I hate to see the little crumbs along the edge. So if you guys have a better way of doing this, you tell me. But I try to expand my selection by 1 pixel, especially when I'm working at 300. That's not a lot, but it's good enough. And I fill. So now I shouldn't have any crumbs in there. I'll show you guys what crumbs look like later. So here, when I make my selection, because of this gap, I gotta plug the gap and then select. There you go. So if I just fill this right here, you get these little crumbs, right? So what I try to do is I select, modify, expand 1 pixel just to broaden out that shape a bit and cover up most of that. You still get these type of things, but those are minimal. Those are not so important. It also depends on how big the art is. That's another thing about one of the downsides to digital, I find, is when you are doing digital work, sometimes you don't know how big something's supposed to be, and you don't realize how small the art's going to be when it prints. So you don't want to put that much energy into something that's going to, when a figure's only 1 inch tall, obviously, you don't want that. But if you're working digitally and your resolution's too high, when you zoom into that 1 inch space, you might think you have enough room for detail, and you're just wasting time on that detail. So whatever you do, don't do that. That's a big mistake. Trust me. All right. So one of the things I'm doing here to give this guy a little more style, I'm also taking the opportunity to add, instead of going and drawing lines everywhere, here, I'm also going to do this here. Oops. Clean this up a bit. I'd like him to be a little sharper than that. Come on, man. Comb your hair. Come on now. I think I don't have enough wolf milk today. I like giving these little lines here, little fast lines in the hair. It just hints just enough to some of that there. What's up, Jose? How you doing, man? Just enough there to give that little more razzmatazz, but not so much. So here I'm having trouble because this neck should be further out. So I'm going to go ahead and draw white back into this, and probably should do a little more than that. And then I'll select that and delete it. So in case a colorist comes behind me to do this, well, in that case, hold on. That was really the problem there. All right. So in case a colorist comes behind me, they can just, you know, happily color that without too much issue. Oops. So what time is it here? Where are we at? Where are we at with time? I've been on for almost an hour. Okay, I think I'm going to be wrapping this up here shortly. I'm going to be working on other characters throughout the day. I actually have to continue working on some commission work that I need to get started for this weekend. This is my weekend to get caught up on most of what I have left over. I appreciate all you guys who have been writing me in. If you do have any requests for commissions, the current list that I'm working on is the one I'm focusing on. Anything after this will be pushed back to later in the month. But if you want something, you're more than welcome to contact me, or you can look in the description below and contact the lab. thelabcomics@gmail.com, and that's Andy River. I just had a brain fart on his email address. It says it right there in front of me too. thelabcomics@gmail.com, and you just reach Andy Rivera. He's my art rep, and he'll help you with that. But yeah, so let's take a quick look at this. So far, I'm very happy. I feel like all these different guys that I've drawn are the same guy. That was the goal, to make sure. Will you have 3 main characters? That's about right. 3 main characters. Do you know Gatchaman Battle Plans? Yes, Cam. So I feel good about this. I feel like each of these image. Oh, you know what? I like giving this guy a gap between his teeth. That makes him look a little more extra normal, extra plain. Yeah, this guy, I'm happy. I feel like I've accomplished good stuff with this character. I feel like he fits. If I was to draw this guy from a different angle, I feel comfortable enough. Thank you, Kodak, for the $2 super chat, brother. I appreciate you, man. Looking great. Should get an email from me soon. Right on, brother. I appreciate that. I appreciate that very muchly. I feel good that this is going to carry over into a final look that's going to be strong. We'll see how things get as I get closer. I'm going to start developing some of that artwork for my other characters. Some of the other characters is his wife. His wife's name is Gina. Let me see if I can find her here. This is Gina. So she's pretty cool. But I've been kind of working over her as well. Let's see what I've got here. Did I include? That's Depp. I thought I did some art for. I did all these drawings of the one guy, and I actually changed that too. Here, let me show you. Let's see. I thought I had it here, but maybe I did it on a separate file. I thought it was on this file. Yeah, it's not here right now. But anyway, I've been redrawing her as well, and getting pumped up about that. I feel like we're moving along. So this is not the drawing of him. I hope I didn't mess up. I may have saved over this, not knowing. Oh no! Say it isn't so. You got to say it isn't so. Oh, there it is. There it is. There it is. There it is. Okay, this is why. Yeah, these are my drawings. Okay, that makes sense. So yeah, so this is kind of where I've landed for her. Drawing her a little more realistically to match that interpretation of him. She looks a little young, so I'm adjusting that too. I want her to look like she's not that much younger than him, right? That's his wife. So I want to make sure that she's still attractive, she's still lovely, but she has to be, in some sort of. It might just be this right here, just adding a couple of lines, little bags under her eyes makes her a little older. So we'll see about that. This guy, I don't know why I'm using this shape here. What is that? What is that? That's under here, I think. Yeah. This guy I like a lot. He's cool. Got a little dip in his mouth there. Pretty cool. I like that guy a lot. So we'll be dealing with that as we go along. So hopefully you guys are enjoying this so far. And I know that this seems like, oh yeah, Elliot, you're kind of still going over. Like I said, I'm not jumping into this crazy. You know, I have always worked in different styles. That is my style. Is like Bruce Lee said. My style is the art of fighting without fighting. That's a terrible impression of Bruce Lee. But anyway, you know, that kind of stuff is important. I want it to look good. I want it to feel good. And I don't want it to be about, oh, look how cool he draws. I want it to be about look how cool the story is. So that's, at the end of the day, that's what all of this for me is about, is making sure that I'm servicing the story first. The story is the most important thing. All right, kids. It is now, well, no, I got a few more minutes here. Let me just take an opportunity. Be like water. That's it. Elliot, would it be good to talk to you or Andy about the content of a commission? Yes, Cam. Just go ahead and contact Andy at thelabcomics@gmail.com, and he'll square you away for sure. We meet every twice a week, so he comes over to the house and we have discussions about all of my stuff. Thank you, John. I appreciate that. Pay attention, guys. John Malin's in the house. I want to point you to his stuff. He's got some projects coming along, so you find him here on YouTube. Is that John Malin, right? I think you're at John Malin on YouTube here. Also, Kyung Lee and his Battle Maiden Knuckle Bomb on Indiegogo is still active. I want you to check that out. Check out Antonio Bryce's brand as well, still heating up over there. And who else? Critias still has his book. I think his might be closed, I think, but he's got some new projects coming up. I'm gonna start including all my boys, my homies. I'm gonna try to include their stuff in here. Doug Tenaple still has Bigfoot Bill on the loose, and this project I'm working on is the project I'm working on with Doug Tenaple. So if you guys have enjoyed any of his stuff so far, and by the way, he has a tremendous library of graphic novels you guys really should check out. But anyway, who else was on there last night that I was talking with? Oh, Brian Shearer. Brian Shearer has my partner on Pair of Normal. So by the way, last night was our first official episode. It was a little rocky, but we're getting better at it. We're going to get tighter on our content. Thursdays at 9 p.m. is what we're planning for that, Eastern Standard Time. So, you know, your time zones may vary. And we're going to be talking about just fun stuff. The real focus of it is just for us to hang out and kind of just chill, create like a studio atmosphere, kind of like what we have here. Brian is hilarious. He is. And he has something called, is it William the Last, I believe his book is called. So that should be somewhere in a comic book shop near you. If not, ask about it by name or go to Antarctic Press and find it there. Hopefully I'm giving you guys all the love that you guys have shown me. And for the rest of you, I am planning on doing live shows eventually where I'll be bringing on some people and interviewing other creators from time to time. It's going to be a very curated show for me, so just be aware. But I'm looking forward to working with some of you guys. Some of you guys have asked me to do design work. Like I said, I'm wrapping up some commissions today into the weekend so I can be clean and open to work on this project here, but I'm looking forward to more of that. Lorenzo Sleestack says, excellent stream. I was watching on my Xbox, which doesn't have chat. Well, thanks, man. I appreciate that. John says, turn down the lights and listen to Elliot and Brian tongue click to kill. Oh, that's gross, John. You're so gross. How dare you? Brashear. I know, that was funny. I heard that too. Kyung Kyung Battle Knuckle. Battle Maiden Knuckle Bomb. There you go. So guys, check those things out. Show those dudes some love, man. All these guys I'm working with here, they're awesome. They are great guys. I don't know a lot of gals working on anything, but I'm looking forward to getting to know some of you guys' work that way too. Thank you for the super chat, Bear. Great show last night. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. Like I said, Brian and I are going to be switching out week to week as we can. So this week was his channel. Next week will be my channel here. So be aware. I'll make sure I'll send out some advertisements on Twitter and also on Instagram for those of you who follow me on either of those platforms. Guys, I appreciate you all so much. God bless you guys. Have a great day. And I'll see you guys tonight, where I'll be doing a show with Critias, probably around 9:30 tonight. I'll be working on one of his character designs. Until then, hasta luego. Peace out. And whatever you do, don't hurt yourselves. Stay alert, stay alive, and just say no to car crashes. Bye.